welcome to the Financial Aid Info Night. Welcome. My name is Hardy Olivas, and I am the fellow that works with all students in the West Contra Costa area. I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to my colleague, Willie, just to introduce himself and start us off with the presentation.
Sweet. Thank you, Hardy. And thank you, everyone who's attending the webinar. A little bit about me, just like Hardy, I was in the 10,000 Degrees program and now work in the Napa region. We attend to students in Napa, Sonoma, Marin, Contra Costa, San Francisco, San Mateo, and Santa Clara. And our mission is to achieve educational equality and to support students from low-income backgrounds to and through college. We do college awareness and access, college financial aid advising, financial aid management, college success and support, career readiness, and college readiness or graduation school readiness. Kind of the agenda for tonight's webinar, what financial aid is, and we'll get more into that going on to the next couple of slides and talking about the financial aid application, the CSS profile, scholarship, and how financial aid works. Dive right into it. What is financial aid? Financial aid is money that is gifted or paid to or lent to a student to be used to pay for college expenses. Why financial aid? You just want to always keep your options open. No matter what your plans are after high school graduation, we want you to have all your college options available, whether that be through the community college and 4-year. We want to have for you to be able to pay for that for your college experience. And just consider that even if you think you might not qualify, just apply anyways. You never know if you might be able to qualify for a grant, work study, a loan, or applying to other scholarships. Just always apply yourself and don't be afraid to apply for financial aid. Demystifying financial aid. The first one, definitely, I always thought I couldn't afford college going through high school. I'm undocumented. I can't get financial aid. I won't qualify for financial aid. And these are definitely things that we see a lot. I can't afford scholarships, but there are many grants and scholarships for everyone. You just got to apply yourself. Just make sure you look at every in and out for such scholarships and grants. Just always apply yourself for financial aid. I'm undocumented. I can't get financial aid. There are laws in California that help undocumented students receive financial aid and other resources. We'll be going through that a little more later down the slide. The California Dream Act for undocumented students. And I won't qualify for financial aid. Loans are a form of financial aid. You can apply to as many scholarships, and also you can apply to many scholarships.
So some of the questions that we typically get a lot from our students and parents are, where does the financial aid come from? And the answer is it comes from multiple sources, right? These are the main sources right here where it comes from. So the federal government, obviously the entire United States. Also, we have some grants from the state. So the state government, the state of California. Also for some students, college and universities do provide grants and some type of financial assistance for them as well. And also we have miscellaneous sources. As an example, outside scholarships that we can apply to, like the 10,000 Degrees scholarship and other scholarships within our region. So these are the main 4 forms where financial aid does come from. What types of aid are there? Right, so there are 3 main categories. The first one is gift aid. The second one is work study. And the third one is loans. So let's start with gift aid, which is money awarded to a student that does not need to be paid back. So essentially, these are grants that is given to the student. And as long as you are enrolled in school, you get this money essentially for free and you don't have to pay it back, right? Some examples are the Pell Grant, which comes from the federal government, the Cal Grant, which comes from the state, and the 10,000 Degrees scholarship, which is the miscellaneous scholarship per se. Next, we have work study. So this is money that a student can earn through a campus job. They must work in order to receive the money. So an example could be a job at the library or the bookstore. And this question right here comes up a lot. When you're filling out the financial aid applications, you typically will see a question that says, are you interested for work study? We always tell our students to say yes instead of no, just so that they have the option to be able to work and earn some extra money if they do want to, right? It doesn't hurt to have yes and have the option. However, you do put no, you won't qualify for this. So that's why we just encourage everyone to put yes. And again, it will be optional. Lastly, the last thing that we have here are loans, which is essentially, what the word says, it's a loan, it's borrowed money that does need to be paid back after graduating, right? So an example of this could be the subsidized and unsubsidized loans, parent plus loans, dream loans, and even any type of different loans, like credit card loans, bank loans, just in general, any type of loan. And some of our students do take out loans. However, before we look at loans, we really like to look at everything else, see how much, grants and free money we can get. And, if the option is there at the end, if we must take out loans, we would consider it. But we first look at any and all free aid. So what does financial aid pay for? So essentially, financial aid, when it comes to college, it can be applied to everything and anything, right? So we have the cost of attendance, which is the total cost of attending a college. This total amount includes additional college-related expenses that are in addition to tuition fees. So here are some examples, right? We have tuition, room and board, books and supplies, meal plans. So all of this that you can read here. And when you combine all of those this is again our specific example, all colleges will be different, right? But for this particular example, when you add all of this cost, it will add up to $26,800, right? That's on average. So filling the need. So the student fills the need with financial aid, including, again, grants, loans, work study, and scholarships. So essentially on the top, we have the cost of attendance, right? The 26.8. And then at the bottom, we have in green, all our financial aid. So we have grants, we have scholarships, we have work study and loans. So we will take a look at all the grants and all the free money that we're getting, and then subtract that amount from the cost of attendance so that we can really figure out exactly how much money we will be paying.
And getting on to the next slide, the FERPA, which stands for Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. FERPA is a federal law that protects all personal information reported in any educational document. This includes financial aid and college applications. And basically only people that are going to be able to see this are the financial aid departments or the schools that you apply to. So the FERPA law will protect all privacy acts and protect all that information, and only the schools will be able to see it. All right, so we're getting right into it with the FAFSA application. This is what the homepage will look like for you. And the first thing you got to do is create a FAFSA login and password. The FAFSA website on the top left corner, FAFSA.ed.gov, and it already opened. It opened October 1st. Definitely recommend getting it done as soon as you can. And it's for students who are U.S. citizens, legal permanent residents, and individuals with granted asylum. We'll be talking about creating a FAFSA ID and username.
When it comes to the FSA ID, everyone must have one. And by everyone, I mean the student, because we'll be providing their information, but also the parent as well. So typically we get that question a lot, like, do parents have to create an FSA ID as well? And the answer to that is yes, because since you are submitting your documents, right, you have to sign electronically. And the way to do so is by creating an FSA ID as well, which you will be reusing for the remainder of the time that your student is enrolled in school. Also, if you have like a younger student who might be attending college, 3-4 years down the road, make sure to save this information because you will be using that same FSA ID again. For some of our students that have parents who are undocumented, that they do qualify for FAFSA, what tends to happen is it will not allow the student's parent to sign electronically because they don't have a social security number. So what needs to happen is they will print out a physical copy of the signature, they would sign, and then they will mail that out. All right, so the California Dream Act application. So similarly to the FAFSA application, this one opens up in October 1st and it closes on March 2nd. The only difference is that this application is only for our students who are AB 540, including students who are undocumented or those who have a social security number because of DACA, TPS, a U visa. And again, the only thing, the difference is that is for only those students. But for the California Dream Act, those students are only eligible for state aid, not for the federal money that comes with the FAFSA. So who is AB 540 eligible? So it's for all our students who, for example, came here to the United States. They've been enrolled in school for a couple of years, right? So in order to be eligible to 540, you have to have attended 3 years at a California school and obtain your high school diploma or GED or an associate's degree or minimum transfer requirements to transfer. Essentially, just as long as you have 3+ years of combined education and credits, you will qualify for the AB 540. So next thing, similarly to the Fafsa, there is a parent pen that parents do have to sign when they're signing for the California Dream Act application, right? So similarly, the parent pen acts as an electronic signature, and this step is only done after you submit it. It is a 4-digit pin, and just like FAFSA, your parents are gonna have to keep this very safe because they will continue on using it every single year. For California Dream Act students as well, they're gonna have to submit an AB 540 affidavit. So a residency, also known as residency reclassification form. So all students who are AB 540 must submit this to each school that they're considered attending, right? And what this does is it makes sure that your school considers you for in-state tuition. And this tends to happen a lot, again, especially with our undocumented students, where they don't submit this, even if they qualify for the AB 540, right? So what happens is the school charges them as if they are out of state. So to put that into perspective, at a community college, for example, a unit is $46. But if you don't have the AB 540 affidavit, a unit then costs roughly $346. So it's a big, big difference. And we want to encourage you all to look into this and make sure that you submit this information correctly so that, again, there's no issues and you don't get charged a lot of extra money. And again, if it doesn't make sense or you have questions, we'll be there to help you with the process as well.
And then for documents needed for these such applications for students, if it applies, you'll be needing all this stuff for California Dream Act or FAFSA, the middle class scholarship for California residents that are going to a UC or CSU. The income must be less than 190,000 and assets must be less than 191,000. The CCS profile is commonly requested by private schools. They open on October 1st and deadlines vary by schools. So just make sure to go on the school's website to make sure when those dates are. And there are a $25 fee for the first school and $16 for additional schools, but there are waivers. And talk a little bit more about 10,000 Degrees Scholarship. It opens up in October, no GPA required, no test score required at all, and demonstrates financial aid needs. How to apply. First thing you got to do is complete and submit a FAFSA or California Dream Act application. And then the next thing you want to do is complete the scholarship application. Go to 10,000degrees.org and look at general scholarship, going on to other scholarship and apply to as many as you can. 10,000 Degrees outside scholarship webpage, your high school or college that you're attending. Also, you can check your college financial aid departments and websites, and always just do your outside research, try to find a scholarship and get as much money as you can for college because it can get expensive.
Lastly, one of the things that does tend to happen, financial aid verification. So what is it? This is a question that we typically get asked. So it is when your school or schools ask for additional documents to verify the information you reported on your FAFSA or California Dream Act application. This typically happens around January or March, January to March, when colleges are already reviewing the applications. And the way that you will know that you are being verified is if schools add a to-do item under your college or financial aid portal, right? So if this does happen, make sure you contact your financial aid office to confirm if they need any additional info. So they typically are pretty good about this. They'll let you know, they'll reach out, they'll send emails to let you know that more documents are being needed. Also, your financial aid award package will not be able to be seen if you don't submit the required documents, right? So some of the things that sometimes get verified could be like the income reported, so the tax transcripts and or W-2s, household size could also be verified. Also dependency status. So this is why it's really important that when you're filling out these applications, both FAFSA and California Dream Act, you read everything carefully. You ask questions if you do have any. So keep that in mind. that this can happen. Again, it won't happen to everyone, but it will happen to some of us. Now we have the financial aid offer letters, right? So what I was talking a little bit about is their financial aid offer letters or award letters, however you want to call them. So what is it? It is a document that lists the school's cost of attendance plus any financial aid that the school is offering the student. Only schools listed on students' financial aid application will provide an offer letter. When do students receive their offer letters? So for four-year schools, it's pretty short after they are accepted into that school. For community colleges, sometimes it's around May or June. So it really will depend on the school and when their financial aid office reviews their FAFSA or California Dream Act application to determine their award letters. And where can a student view their offer letter? Award letters can be viewed in student school portal in the financial aid section. And sometimes some of them might be a little difficult to navigate or understand. So how does financial aid work? Again, just as a reminder. So first we have the little girl up there on the top. She submitted her FAFSA, right, or California Dream Act. So they submit that information. Then that information gets sent over to the school, who will then determine what the cost of attendance is. The school will then determine how much money the student will actually need in order to essentially attend that school, right? And with that, they will give the student a financial aid award letter. FAFSA and California Dream Act will have to be renewed every year. This is some general financial aid application timeline. This is typically what we like to share with our students, just so that you have an idea of where you should be at with your financial aid application. So as always, the application opens on October 1st and it won't close until March 2nd. But we do want all our students to submit as early as possible so that if there are any issues, we have enough time to be able to fix whatever problems we might have. So it's really, really important, but it'll be a good starting point for when you do start completing those financial aid applications and where you should be by month.
And next part, checking your student portal. For each student portal, you can see where your financial aid packet is, and there's also a to-do list. And then also this is a place where you can view your admission status. Just make sure to have all those logins for your student portals.
All right. Thank you all for joining us today. We do have some questions in here that we'll do our best to answer. So we have a great question here. It says, is there a section on the FAFSA to enter special circumstances, for example, medical, injury, disability? If not, where would an applicant have the opportunity to explain special circumstances? So there is an option in there to answer a few of this, right? They give you the option to list if you do have any type of disability. You will be able to input that into the FAFSA application. And if for whatever reason, you're not able to explain other circumstances that they do not give you the option to explain, once you have your school that you will be attending, and you are 100% sure that you'll be at that school, you can connect with the financial aid office at that school in particular, so you can then explain your special circumstances. For example, we have students who, their parents own their own business and they were doing good last year, but this year because of COVID, things went a little bit downside. And they're not able to reflect that on their FAFSA because of their change on income. So then they connect with the financial aid office to talk about that situation and see what can be done and if things can be adjusted, right? But it is a matter of connecting with the financial aid office. Let's see, we have a few more questions here. Will schools make acceptance decisions based on the ability to pay reflected on FAFSA? So to answer that, no. The schools just take a look at the student in general, but financials don't have anything to do with the schools accepting students into or considering acceptance for the students into that particular school. So we do have a few other questions. If parents are divorced, right, do they need to give out FAFSA their financial information? So essentially what happens is we have students who are in this situation, right? We want to, for that particular student, we want to input the information of the parent that is providing most of our financial support. So, we have a parent that's providing, 80% of the financial support. We'll go with that parent's financial aid information, okay? Where does your student have the opportunity to enter more than 10 colleges on the FAFSA? So as of now, only 10 schools can be entered in there, but after the application is submitted, you will have the option to go back into the FAFSA, make corrections, and change the schools if you do decide. That way, newer schools can get that information as well. So we have another question here that says, do we have to apply for the college first or the FAFSA first? So it really is going to depend. We have students who do apply for the colleges first and then for their financial aid applications, or the other way around. But typically we just tell our students to do the FAFSA first because it's the one that opens up first. The financial aid, the FAFSA and California Dream Act, they're the first applications to open for the academic year. So we want to encourage all our students to submit that as soon as possible. Perfect. So we have another great question. It says, what type of aid is FAFSA? Also, do I need to meet every requirement for financial aid, such as California Dream Act, for example? So again, there's there's only two financial aid applications, one being FAFSA, the other one being California Dream Act. Our students will only qualify for one of them only. So if you qualify for FAFSA, you don't have to do a Dream Act. If you don't qualify for FAFSA, you will do the Dream Act. So the type of aid that FAFSA is federal and state. So when you apply to FAFSA, you qualify for both the federal money, the Pell Grants, and loans, and the state, so the Cal Grants as well. Another amazing question here. Does having undocumented parents affect my ability to qualify for some scholarships? For the most part, and majority of the scholarships that we know, absolutely not. Documentation for parents does not matter whatsoever. And in some scholarships, documentation for the students in general as well don't matter at all. But definitely check the requirements, but no, it does not matter. We have another question here. How do you go into creating college portals for each school? So depending on the school, they will contact you, they will get in touch with you, most likely via email. Students will be able to sign in to their schools and they will follow the instructions through there, right? All schools are different. All schools have their own way of creating their portals. So keep that in mind. We have a good question here. Do you have to submit a separate FAFSA for each college that you apply for? And to answer that, absolutely not. You only do one application, and where it tells you to add the schools, you can list up to 10 schools in there. Then FAFSA sends all the information directly to the school. So you only need to create one application. Just make sure that on that application, you list all the schools that are on your list of colleges. All right, I think we have another question here. Do you create the original login for the student? So you create two logins for FAFSA. So typically, again, only the student needs to submit the FAFSA application, but because we're using our parents' financial information, our parents need to create an FSA ID. So FSA ID and FAFSA are two separate things, right? So think of it as the FSA ID being a username and a password. So when you create that username and password, then you're able to log into the FAFSA and complete the FAFSA application. So yes, in that particular case, students and parents need to have an FSA ID. The information that we provide is the student information via FAFSA and parent information via FAFSA. And at the end, both student and parents sign the application. Let me see. Is federal aid different from state aid? Can we apply at the same time? So again, yes, federal is very different than state. And essentially, when you are applying to the FAFSA, you are applying to both. You're applying to federal and state aid. But when you're applying to the California Dream Act, you only essentially are only eligible to get state aid. So keep that in mind. And again, just as a reminder, we only fill out one application, whichever one you qualify for. We never fill out two applications, okay? So it's either we qualify for the FAFSA or we qualify for the California Dream Act. Yes, so the question is the amount of money you get based on the college you are attending to. So yeah, so every school will determine what they believe is the correct amount of financial aid that you will be eligible to receive. So they essentially get the last word on determining which how much money you'll be receiving. We have students who, when they apply to, for example, a UC, they're typically eligible for all the money that comes with the Pell Grants and some of the state grants, right? But the schools themselves, they also have their own grants that they award, and those can be very different and fluctuate depending on the income that or parents' income and all that information. So it's gonna vary a lot.
We got one question in the chat. The financial aid that you received, do you have to pay back? If it is a loan, yes, you will have to pay that back. But if it's a grant or a scholarship from the school, you do not have to pay those back. It's just the loans that you take out.
If we created a FSA ID for older child, and do we use that or create a new one? So you will use that same FSA ID. This is why it's really important that, you know, once you create your FSA ID, you save it, because you're going to continue on using it as long as your child is enrolled in school. And just to finish off, says, what if you want to change information on a FAFSA form that you have already turned in? For example, I initially said no for work study, and I want to change that now, right? So yeah, so to answer that question, you can always, after you submit the FAFSA, you can always log back into it and make corrections. So you will have time for that. Thank you so much for joining. I'm sorry I could not get to all the questions. We have some great questions here. But again, if you do have any further questions about your specific case or just in general, please connect with us when you do have the chance.